You know what really annoys me? When stuff just ends with "to be continued." If you ask me, that... It's a secret to nobody that boss fights can easily make or break a game. When playing through a game, a good boss fight can really elevate one's opinion, while a bad boss fight sticks out for the wrong reasons. Having said that, having the final boss of a game be bad? Oh, it's never pleasant. Whether that be unreasonably brutal, way too easy, or just a letdown in some capacity, these are the final bosses that just did not do their job. As always, only one game per franchise, and I will be spoiling games hard here. You have been warned. With all that said, let's try to get to this finale fast. Let's roll! Playing through Breath of the Wild was such a wonderful experience. It became one of my favorite games in no time at all. And throughout it all, I was super looking forward to the finale because Zelda games usually excel in that field. And they kind of fumbled it. Okay, the trek through the dystopian Hyrule Castle is phenomenal, especially given just how many ways you can tackle it. This was genuinely one of the best parts of the game, but when you finally make it to Calamity Ganon, things go downhill fast. The first issue is honestly more of a me thing, but I'll get it out there. At the start of the battle, all the guardians you freed come together to just blast Ganon, which can take upwards of half of his health. I get that this was the point, to reward you for freeing them, but it just cuts down on the first phase, which is a shame because it's actually pretty fun. However, when that phase ends, he grows gigantic. The setup is phenomenal, and the fight itself is lame. All you're doing is just riding on horseback, shooting light arrows at the target so bright and obvious they can be seen from orbit. All the while, the attacks he uses are so slow and telegraphed that you'd have to actively try to lose this. Legitimately, as long as you stay out of his line of sight, you are in zero danger. This isn't the worst fight ever, but after everything leading up to it, it just left me disappointed. Still the best fight on here though, but that's not saying much. In the Pokemon series, N is widely regarded as one of the most interesting and beloved characters, and it's not hard to see why. Throughout Black and White, he shows an interesting take on what Pokemon could mean to people, and during the adventure, he gives many memorable moments. This all leads up to the finale, where he's defeated the champion, summoned his castle, and is ready to tell everyone to release their Pokemon. And it caps off with you catching the legendary dragon and facing N in one of the most climactic battles in the entire series. This was phenomenal! And then they completely dropped the ball! Throughout the adventure, it's clear that Getis has his own agenda, and it comes to a head after your battle with N. He not only basically discards his own son, but also rips the spotlight away from one of the most fascinating characters in the franchise. But to make matters worse, the battle against him is just not fun. Getis' Pokemon are stronger than N's, but most of them are basically nothing, with two exceptions. His Electros can be pretty annoying to deal with because it has fair bulk, excellent coverage, and also no weaknesses. But that is nothing. Nothing! Compared to his Hydreigon! Not only is it brutally powerful, but with Surf and Fire Blast in its moveset, it can drop almost anything that could threaten it! On top of that, not only gets us a boring character here, but even the music is dull, really cementing this finale as a flop. At least he was a bit better in Black and White 2. A bit. Mario games are often just feel-good experiences. It doesn't matter the kind of mood I'm in, a Mario platformer is usually something I can't turn down. One of the more interesting entries is Sunshine, without a doubt. I personally like it a lot despite some less than ideal choices, but it's still a fun game, until you reach the finale. Yeah, Corona Mountain is a horribly designed final level, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Once you make it through that death trap and up to Bowser...
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
Oh, that voice acting is a bad sign, I can just tell. So yeah, it's Mario vs. Bowser. Who could have seen that coming? Bowser attacks with fire, while Bowser Jr. shoots bullet bills. Thing is, they're not hard to deal with. And welcome everybody to Boss Tips with Arrow Dragon! Is there a giant dragon turtle in his run trying to kill you? The solution is simple! Just run the other way. Yeah, it's really as simple as turning around and running the opposite direction to dodge the attacks, and that's not counting for the fact that just squirting Bowser or the bullets with water will stop them. And the objective couldn't be more obvious. Just use the rocket nozzle to smash the conveniently placed targets. This fight just ends up being super dull and a really lame way to end Sunshine. But at least Mario and Peach get to enjoy their vacation afterwards. Silver lining, I suppose. It's a secret to nobody that I absolutely hate Mega Man X7. It's a rare case of a game I can find very few positives in, and one that actively angers me. Despite all that though, I was hoping that maybe, just maybe, it could go out on a decent note. It couldn't even do that. Sigma shows up at the end to the surprise of absolutely nobody. The first phase is basically nothing. His attacks are extremely telegraphed, and getting behind cover or up on the walls to dodge them is not hard. He goes down super easily. Of course, there is a second phase where he becomes absolutely gigantic, and you're in space for some reason. And where do I even begin with the problems here? How about this? You're at the complete mercy to the 3D style, meaning it's all too easy to just fall off to your death, especially with a questionable collision on these platforms. Secondly, did you see his health bar? It's absolutely enormous for basically no reason. And on top of all of that, his attacks are simultaneously super easy to deal with and also incredibly dangerous. Not for the damage they do, but rather for the possibility that he'll get knocked off and have to start all over again. The battle is ultimately long and tumultuous, but not for the right reasons. It just feels like a test of patience because of how overinflated his health is and how long it takes to shoot him. If I didn't hate X7 already, this was the final nail in that coffin. I'm not super into the Final Fantasy series. While I did enjoy 7 and 9 a lot, the others I played didn't really click with me, unfortunately. Having said that, the way that 7 concluded was nothing short of fantastic. This ending is legendary for a reason. So when I was nearing the end of 9, I was expecting a finale of that caliber. And you know how they say that high expectations can leave you disappointed? That's absolutely true. They had something fantastic going here. The main antagonist throughout Final Fantasy IX was Kuja, and he did a phenomenal job. He was overly narcissistic and sinister, but also an incredibly threatening villain who you knew you had to take down. However, once he realizes he's not immortal like he thinks, he basically snaps and decides that if he can't live forever, then he'll just destroy everything. The battle against him feels super climactic since most of the game is building up to this point, and they just ruined it by having this guy be the final boss. After Kuja is defeated and wipes the party in his last desperate moments, Necron comes the heck out of nowhere and claims he will erase everything. So yeah, we went from an interesting antagonist to whatever the heck this is. And on top of that, the battle is just a total opposite of quality from Kuja's. Sure, it's the final boss. You expect it to be difficult, but Necron can just be plain cheap at times. Not only can he do powerful single target damage, but he also heals himself when he takes a lot of damage, ups his defenses, has an attack that brings an ally down to 1 HP no matter what, and AoE attacks that can be absolutely lethal if they catch you off guard. But the absolute worst defender is Grand Cross. Not only does his attack have a drawn-out animation, but also deals heavy damage and can inflict most status conditions, including instant death! You could be having a good run, but a single Grand Cross can send your hopes and dreams 6 feet under, and he'll make sure your body follows. Between how much of an anticlimax this is and how unfun the fight is, this really left a bad taste in my mouth. And we're only halfway done with this list. Playing through Fire Emblem Fates was fun. A lot of fun, actually. It became one of my favorite 3DS games in a pretty short time. Sadly though, both Conquest and Birthright couldn't exactly cross the finish line with grace. Birthright had a phenomenal setup. You just took down Garen, and he transformed into this gigantic, seething dragon ready to end you, and it's one of the easiest final battles in the series. But I'll gladly take that over what Conquest decided to pull. You defeat your evil father after he became a monster, and all seems well. Then, out of nowhere, a possessed corpse of Takami comes out and shoots you dead. But you don't die, and now you're forced to fight him. The map here is pretty straightforward, a straight shot to him. But if only it were that easy. Throughout the fight, Faceless and other units spawn from the sides, and they're just there to pester you. But while that's going on, Takami is charging a powerful burst attack that can do severe damage. The only way to protect your units is to use one of the dragon veins around the battlefield to create a shield, but good luck getting everyone safe while you're being dogpiled. And after the slog of actually getting to Takami, you have to fight him, and he is a dirty cheater. He has a special skill that lets him break the rules of pair-up and gain both benefits. He gets to attack twice, any pair-up attack you attempt is foiled, and he can block any attack if his guard gauge is full. Oh, and did I mention that enemy units are closing in on you fast, so time is of the essence? This fight just feels completely stacked against you, and when I won, I barely felt any satisfaction, just relief that the nightmare was finally over. I wish his fate was better than this, truly I do. I've gone on record saying how much I adore the Hyperdimension Neptunia series. Not only are the games themselves really fun, but the writing and copious amounts of charm really kept me engaged. And nearing the end of the first game, I was expecting the game to go out with a smile. And the opposite pretty much happened. Throughout the game, you're set on defeating the witch Arfor, who seeks to rule over game industry. Once you finally corner her, she decides to stop running and take on the goddesses herself. Now the first phase here is totally fine. It's actually pretty fun. You gotta manage your positioning and resources well and make sure to lay in on her with everything you've got. If it ended here, I would have no complaints. But sadly, we just can't have that luxury. When she's defeated the first time, she transforms into a dragon, how cliche, and fights even harder than ever. The first problem here is her size. Yes, it makes her easier to attack, but it also works the other way, as it makes it really hard to avoid getting attacked. Second, at the start of each of her turns, she regenerates health. A lot of it, actually. You could use a powerful EXE drive attack, and she can just remove all the damage and laugh like nothing happened. As a result, this battle just becomes this gigantic war of attrition as you hope to win before everyone falls. And she is absolutely ruthless! Her attacks can take anywhere from a third to half or more of a character's health, so you're likely going to spend a lot of time healing instead of attacking, meaning she can regenerate even more health! This right here is the worst kind of hard for a final boss. It doesn't test your skills, it tests your endurance, trying to see if you can withstand everything she puts you through. I want her game to end as hard as possible. I don't exactly dislike Sonic and the Secret Rings. It's sort of one of my guilty pleasures. Sure, it's not a great game, but it can still be fun. One aspect I definitely enjoy about it are the boss fights, as they all have a unique way of challenging you. But once I reach the final boss, oh boy, did my opinion of this game tank. After seizing the World Rings from Sonic, Eraser Jin is ready to straight up off him, but Charlotte protects Sonic and Eraser turns into this absolute monstrosity. And then 3 of the World Rings enter Sonic, turning him into a monster, and now it's time to tango. Right at the start, you hear Charlotte tell you that you need to shake the Wii Remote to fill the soul gauge. Okay, simple enough, but there's a little bit of an issue with that strategy. You are a complete sitting duck while doing so. And given how infrequently you're given rings in this fight, it doesn't take much for you to lose as a result. And you need to basically have the soul gauge maxed out, all while dodging energy shots and slices from this beast. And to make matters worse, you have to repeat this 2 or 3 times because man is this guy resilient! Throughout it all, barely anything changes with this fight. He uses the same attacks, so it's not only annoying, but it gets boring really fast. And at the end, I'm not only unsatisfied, but man are my arms sore from all that shaking. This fight should just stay in the storybooks and never be opened ever again. I don't have any issues with really hard games. They can be really fun to play through and incredibly satisfying to triumph over, but when difficulty transcends into being completely stupid, that is where I draw the line. Sora is a difficult game, I won't mince words on that. Your dodging and shooting skills are really put through the ringer with all the obstacles and enemies that are thrown at you, and this culminates in the boss fights that challenge you to understand their patterns and how to efficiently dodge their attacks. But even though it can be absolutely brutal at times, it never feels unfair. There's always a method to the madness that can be discerned so you can win. Up until the final boss. Ugh, this one. Starbreaker has attached herself to a gigantic bomb, and you're the only thing standing between her and the most cataclysmic fireworks show the world has ever seen. But before you even have a chance to strike at her, she's striking at you from the background. Because yeah, that's totally fair! And to make matters worse, her attack patterns are totally random. This makes this part devolve into a rousing game of pick a corner and hope for the best. And the pain is only starting, because once you do have a chance to attack, she assures you'll barely have that chance. She launches cables that extend outward, which don't hurt directly, but burst into energy shots, while she's also launching bombs left and right. The best way to handle this is honestly to just brute force it at close range, because the further away you are, the more likely you're going to get absolutely destroyed. And after that, it's another interlude of being attacked from the background, except this time, it's with double the lasers! I hope your luck with picking a corner is good, because that's all you can hope for! Then when it's time to attack again, she surrounds herself with 8 drones, which can not only eat your attacks, but also shoot fire and more energy shots with even more bombs! Think you can dodge it all? Think again! And this isn't even the worst of it. In the final phase, she has drones which also eat your shots while shooting beams, while Starbreaker herself is shooting lasers, even more bombs, and missiles that take up a lot of screen space. But the worst offender is her gigantic laser, which also has a gravity well on it. Getting caught in this might as well be an instant kill, and while trying to avoid it, you're a lot worse off trying to dodge everything else. Again, Sora is a hard game, but this goes way overboard. The fight is incredibly long, and screwing up means starting all over again. And when I finally came out on top, I feel like I lucked out instead of figuring out the boss and conquering it like all the others. But even with how much I hate this final boss, my number 1 goes even further beyond that. Sometimes, beating a game isn't enough to face the final boss. There are times where a game will ask you to do some very specific things to see the story wrapped up, and these can range from doable to just why. So yeah, Azure Striker Gunvolt, a really fun game to be sure, but if you want to see it through to the end, it loses points fast. You not only have to beat all the stages and get the gems from them, you have to go through the final stage twice, defeat the incredibly annoying boss at the end twice, solely because you need to talk to Jewel with all the gems, and you straight up can't before going to the final stage the first time, and then you have to go through the final stage with an accessory that has 0 benefit, so it's effectively a handicap. And your reward for doing all of that, the single worst final boss I've ever faced. Yeah, it's not much of a surprise that your superior Asimov had ulterior motives he wasn't letting on, but now he's decided to get Lumen, he needs to remove Gunvolt from the equation. As an adept just like Gunvolt, Asimov has electric powers and you need to match him in order to win. There's an issue with that idea though. His other attack is capable of shorting you out, preventing you from using your electric powers. And this isn't a short debuff, it lasts 10 seconds, which is enough time to take a ton more damage. Now in the first phase, it's not that bad once you understand the attack pattern, but things only get worse. In the second phase, he mixes it up with a drone that shoots orbs above and below it, and markers that can send 5 shots in your direction after hitting them. But once you're at the third phase, Asimov will throw you to the ground and make you beg for mercy. Not only does he use the same annoying attacks with his gun, but he also unleashes his ultimate attack, the Voltic Chains, which are not only completely random in their attack pattern, but unless you have an accessory to reduce damage, it's a guaranteed instant kill. And if you fail at any point, it's back to the first phase and you'll have to do it all over again. It's not as long to fight a Starbreaker, but between everything you need to go through to get to this point, the fact the fight focuses on taking away a core mechanic of the game and punishing you for it, and an insta-kill attack that has absolutely no business being random, I can without any hesitation say that this is the worst final boss I've ever experienced. A real shock to the system. I'm Arrow Dragon, and hopefully the finale of whatever game you're playing is better than these. And that'll do it for this long overdue list. It honestly felt good to do a topic that got me as passionate as this, and I hope you all enjoyed it. As for what's coming next, I'm honestly not too sure, so if you have any ideas for countdowns I could do, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or join my Discord server so you can let me know. Well, until next time, this is Zero Dragon, signing off.